You've probably heard of all these Metroidvanias before, but I bet you've never heard of this one. Saving Princess is an awesome game, believe me, so not only are we going to be talking about it today, but we're also going to be going over the basic building blocks of the Metroidvania genre. Stick around. Saving Princess is a 2D side-scroller where you play as a badass purple-suited warrior named Portia Crane. Her mission? Save the princess, or else the war is lost. We're not told what that means, but it sounds like some pretty heavy shit, so when the game starts off, you do what a gamer does best and start running to the left this time, actually. Saving Princess is like Metroid at its core, but throws Mega Man-style elements into the mix, along with some really awesome environmental storytelling. I was immediately pulled in by the crisp mechanics and smooth movement. Running and gunning feels like a dream in this game. You can also shoot down to jump higher, but more on that later. Now, Saving Princess fits into a genre that we cultured folk call a Metroidvania. See, when a Metroid and a Vania love each other very much, they make a Metroidvania, and thus began the Age of Fire. When we picture a Metroidvania, we most likely think of exploration, epic quests, character growth, and so on, but what are the actual main pillars of a Metroidvania? Well, I thought I'd make a video just about that, and what better game to use as an example than Saving Princess? Because it's not just a Metroidvania, it's a good Metroidvania, and one worth learning from. No, thank you, I'm good. So I've decided on 3 major building blocks that I think make these games the way they are, and the first building block is level design. When Metroid first came out, players were introduced to a very different style of level than they had seen before. Whereas familiar platformers like Mario featured separated levels, each with a start and an end, Metroid just had a world. You started off in the first room, and that was it. You go everywhere seamlessly from there. Metroidvanias abolished linearity from their design, and yet these maps aren't exactly open world either. Metroidvanias still lead you along a vague path, and a well-designed Metroidvania will do so without the player noticing. So my first tip for level design is that these worlds should be like mazes. This may sound obvious, but one common trap that designers fall into is that they make a bunch of linear areas and just connect them. What you want to do is focus on rooms with more than 2 doors, areas that have choice. This doesn't mean you can't have any hallway-style rooms or segments, it just means the focus should be on intertwining paths.
But Jack, having multiple directions to choose from can be overwhelming for the player!
You're right, so this is where a classic Metroidvania staple comes into play. Doors you can't open yet. Saving Princess does this flawlessly in its first area. When you start the game, you find this room with all these doors to go in. You have no idea which way you're supposed to be going, so you pick doors at random. However, all but one of these doors is blocked by these red-eyed walls. You can only break through them once you have the charge shot. So at first, this area is linear, because there's only one way to go, but as you unlock more abilities, like the charge shot, the area starts to open up and reveal its maze-like nature. Going along with that point, my second level design tip is to make the most out of your space. While I was on itch.io looking for Metroid-style games to play, I stumbled across a Game Jam game called Cuckoo Castle. It's a small project, but it's surprisingly well done. The artwork is charming, the combat is juicy, and the castle itself is cleverly built. One part that stuck with me is this room right here. When you start the game, you play as the knight, and when you find this room, you can't get up here because of this door contraption. Later on, however, when you find the witch character and use her double jump to get to a new part of the castle, you find yourself back in that room, able to pull the lever and open the door. Now the joke here is that you need the witch to progress up to this point, but what they could have done is just place a jump that you can't make until you get the witch, then you go and you get the witch, make the jump, and move on. But by setting it up the way they did, not only did they create a shortcut for when you re-enter the castle, it makes the new area accessible to the knight. And this was cool for me, because the knight was my favorite character to use. You see, rather than just moving on from the beginning area and dismissing it, they embrace the beginning area, leading you back to it, but also changing it and giving it new purpose. Seeing as we're on the topic of revisiting areas now, why don't we seamlessly transition into the next chapter of this video? No, I'm good, thank you though. I'm good, thanks. Building block number 2 is backtracking, and out of all the building blocks, this one is probably the most fragile. Backtracking is a key part of Metroidvanias because it kills linearity, and yet it's very easy for backtracking to become tedious or annoying. As a designer, if you're going to make your player go back through an area that they've already done, you've got to make your top priority keeping them engaged through means of change and adaptation. Now you might be saying to yourself, Jack, why do you have your undies in a bunch? And I would say, I don't know. But you also might be saying, Jack, what's your deal? What's the big deal with backtracking? And, well, let me put it to you this way. Let's say that one day you're a person, and wife sister says, go to the store and get some peppers. So you go to the store, and you get some peppers, and then wife sister calls you up and she says, now come back. So you go back. That's boring! But now let's try this. Let's say wife sister says, go into store and get peppers, but you've got to be sneaky about it. So you sneak around, you find the peppers, you get it, you say, peppers, and then wife sister calls you back and she says, the employees found out you're in there, you have to get out. And now, you're trying to escape with the peppers, and this time you're not trying to be sneaky, you're trying to run as fast as you can, and it's like a battle between you and the staff. So even though you're in the same setting, you're using the environment differently. Before, you might have been using aisles as cover to hide, but this time you're using the aisles as things to jump off of, like parkour. Now, I don't know if that analogy makes any sense whatsoever, so why don't we look at some real examples? What I'm trying to get at is this. When you go back through an area you've already been in, it'll be more fun for the player if it's different than the first time they did it. One way to do this is to change the scenario or playstyle. The best example I can think of is Metroid Zero Mission. At the end of the game, you're forced to make your way through a space pirate mothership in nothing but your Zero suit. In this segment, you have to be stealthy to avoid the space pirates, as your only method of self-defense is a stun gun. After you get your power suit back, you backtrack through the ship, but this time you get to blast away at all the space pirates that you had to hide from before. Just like in our grocery store example, you go from stealthy to actiony. It's a really satisfying feeling to go back and blast these guys to smithereens. Furthermore, when the ship self-destructs at the end of the game, you backtrack a third time, but now your goal is to move as fast as you can. Before, you killed enemies, but this time, you ignore them. Before, you moved platform by platform, but this time, you're cutting corners and using everything in your arsenal to get the hell out of there. In this mothership area alone, we see 3 different playstyles in action: stealth, action exploration, and speed running. So even though we're revisiting areas, the method by which we do so has changed, making each room just as interesting as the first time around. I said no. No is no. No is no. I'm good, thank you. I'm good, thank you. Now, not all games have an excuse for a self-destruct sequence, so another way to make backtracking more fun is to fill the area with things that the player can only do once he's discovered a new item or ability. Let's get back to Saving Princess, because I think this game does a really decent job handling backtracking. After you beat the caves, you reach a fork in the road. You can either go to the ice area next, or the fire area. On my first playthrough, I chose ice. I got my ass handed to me. This dipshit in particular really gave me a fucking whirl. There was ice everywhere, there were these spikes, there was this deep snow that I couldn't jump in, it was a mess. So I did what a real man does, and I gave up. I walked my sorry ass over to the fire area with a let's see what else can go wrong attitude, but against all odds, I was able to beat the Black Hunter boss and get the flamethrower. And right away I was hit with this realization like, oh my god, I can go back to the ice place and I could win. I traveled back through the main area and the ice area, both of which I had been through before. But because of my determination and excitement, it was fun again. Maybe even more fun than the first time. I was so excited to beat the shit out of the Red Hunter, and when I got there, I did it. And I was also able to melt the snow and destroy the spikes, which had never been spikes, but icicles. So what will they think of next? No, absolutely not! No! That feeling of excitement that you get when you get an item and you know exactly where to go use it is a key feature in the Metroidvania genre. So key, in fact, that it deserves its own building block. Player growth is the third pillar of this genre. Every noteworthy Metroidvania has you acquiring new items and abilities to progress. Metroid itself has things like the Morph Ball, the Varia Suit, and the Grappling Hook, while newer games like Shantae Risky's Revenge has belly dance transformations, which allow you to cling to walls, break things, and swim. Saving Princess also has you acquiring items to progress, but it's not what you might expect. It's about time I got into detail about the main mechanic of this game. In Saving Princess, you can't just fire shots continuously. You have an ammo clip that regenerates slowly. Along your quest, you'll be able to find clip extensions. Remember that jump ability I mentioned before? Now, along with being able to shoot more times, you can also double jump more times, which means that you can get up higher. Or, in rooms like these, you can get further horizontally without touching the ground. I think this is a really creative way to give the player more freedom. Your gun has dual-purpose design to it. It's not only a weapon, but it's also a means of exploration. If you want to learn more about dual-purpose design, I recommend watching Mark Brown's video about a fun game called Downwell. Link in the description below. Player growth is extremely important in Metroidvania design because it directly correlates with the other two building blocks, level design and backtracking. Let's wrap this lesson up by looking at how these building blocks all work together in harmony. Good level design has the player seeing or noticing things that they can't access yet. They follow whatever path they can, and this leads them to player growth. They uncover an item or ability that makes them remember something they weren't able to access in the past, so they backtrack to go do it. This backtracking is made more fun because of the addition of the new ability. They get to the path that they couldn't access, use their new ability to access it, and the process repeats itself. So there you have it. Maze-like design, changing playstyles, and clever abilities are all key when you want to make the next big Metroidvania. Remember to keep these 3 building blocks in mind, and don't forget to be creative, because that is the most important part. Hey you guys, thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful and informative, be sure to leave a like, and if you want to stay updated on new episodes, you can subscribe and then hit the little bell button. This video series is currently a passion project, but if you want to help support me on my YouTube journey, I would love it if you considered becoming a patron on my brand new Patreon account. The more patrons I get, the more time I'll be able to dedicate into making new and awesome videos. I would love someday to make this my full-time job. I mean, it beats the hell out of my current job. But with that being said, you guys thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next episode of Hybrid Plays.